The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, good. Now call to order the April 1st, 2026 Local Government Commission meeting. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate all the attention on the important matters we have before us today. A handful of announcements from me that are different than our normal procedures. The Local Government Commission is typically only a public meeting and not a public hearing. We don't normally open it up to public comment. Given the matters before us today and the importance of them and the extraordinary circumstances we find ourselves in, we're going to change that today. We are going to have a public comment period towards the end of the meeting. We'll reserve 30 minutes for that, 2 minutes at a time. There is a public sign-up sheet in the back, so I encourage anyone who wants to make a public comment, particularly on the Rocky Mount Littleton matters, to sign up to do that in the back there before we get to those items. We will reserve those to the end of the meeting. The Local Government Commission has a defined purpose under statute. And I know that many people have frustrations around many things in the 1,100 municipalities throughout the state of North Carolina. But the appropriate venue for them is not always the Local Government Commission. What is appropriate at the Local Government Commission is when we find that the financials of our 1,100 municipalities are not in order, or they want to do things that are inappropriate financially that risk the reputation of our state or their municipality. And so those are the matters that we are here to discuss today. This is not a political venue. We are not in the business of second guessing the voters on things that they are aware of and want to do in their municipality, as long as it doesn't cross the threshold to financial insolvency. And so again, I'd ask you to reserve your comments towards the matters that are in front of the LGC today, which are serious and important matters, and ones that we have spent an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out. So those are my opening comments. I will get more into my specific thoughts as we get to the other matters down the line. I would like to turn it over to Ms. Canada to run the meeting and ask that the roll be called.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cindy Aiken, Assistant General Counsel of the department, and we will begin with Secretary Marshall. Here. Here in person. Auditor Bullock.
Here.
Also here in the room, and Secretary Wooten.
Here.
Present in the room. We see Mr. Brown, and we're still working on.
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Awesome, perfect. Okay, he's participating virtually, as is Ms. Hoffman. Ms. Hoffman, if you can unmute yourself, and she's here. Okay, well, she's here. We'll check on her sound. Mr. Hughes is present in the room. Commissioner Johnson, here. Also in the room. Mr. Stiff
Here.
as well, and Treasurer Briner.
Here.
So no absences today. Our staff present as LGC Secretary Denise Canada, Director of Debt Management Jennifer Wimmer, Director of Fiscal Management Kendra Boyle, behind us MJ Buick and Lindy Skinner helping with AV, and assorted staff in the room. I'm going to just go over a few meeting proceedings. First of all, welcome to our visitors and guests. Our proceedings are being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to our department's recording of public meetings policy. We'd ask that everyone speaking today, please identify yourself when you are speaking. Those participating virtually, we ask you to kindly mute yourself when you are not speaking. The agenda has been posted at the LGC's webpage, www.nctreasurer.gov. If we have any changes to the agenda or change in order, the chair will announce that during the meeting. We will continue to take our votes by roll call. Without objection, members, your motions and seconds will be considered as yes votes unless you wish to change that during the roll call. For our visitors, I would just mention that the microphones in the ceiling are very sensitive. We'll pick up your conversations, whether you intend them to or not. If you need to have a private conversation, please feel free to quietly exit to the lobby. Also, every month I have to remind myself to try not to make noise with my papers and such, because it even picks that up on the ceiling mic. But thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Ms. Hoffman did not answer roll call because she can't hear us yet, but Mr. Brown can hear us, so she is checking her settings
Okay.
and such. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the North Carolina flag. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of North Carolina and pledge to the old North State, love, loyalty, and faith.
Thank you. Let's review the conflict of interest statement. Please take a moment, members, to review the agenda. Commission members are reminded of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any member have an actual or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter on the agenda?
Yes, ma'am. This is Commissioner Brown. I'd like to recuse myself from the Rocky Mountain matter and the City of Wilmington matter, please.
Great, thank you. Any other members with a conflict of interest? All right, hearing none. Move on to the minutes of the March 3rd meeting. These were included in your packet. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes and.
Move approval, Marshall.
All right, Marshall, Mr. Stith, any questions about the minutes? Otherwise, I'll ask Cindy to call the roll.
Okay. Hearing no questions, March minutes, Marshall Stith. Auditor Bolick.
Aye.
Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. And Treasurer Bynum.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. The first or next item on our agenda is a presentation of the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award to Jones Norris. Jones, if you would please come forward. Maybe
Let's do it here, right here.
do it here.
That's why everyone's here today, right?
It's good to see you. Jones Norris recently retired from the State and Local Government Finance Division. He has built a distinguished career spanning more than 5 decades across academia, public accounting, banking, housing finance, and North Carolina state government. He began his career as a faculty member at Campbell University, then moved into public accounting with Coopers and Lybrand as a staff accountant. He then advanced into leadership roles as controller at First National Bank of Bluefield and Planters National Bank. Then, lucky for us, he transitioned into the public sector. He served as the finance director of the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and controller at Marymount University. Then came back to state service. Jones worked in the State and Local Government Finance Division in debt oversight in the debt management section. He also worked in the fiscal management section, which is where he finished his career. Jones was recently recognized as having 50 or more years of CPA licensure in North Carolina, and he retired in December. And before I present the award, I also want to tell you that beyond these different roles, Jones's experience and perspective is rooted in various real-world experience. He worked as a butcher in his father's grocery store and as a night clerk in a small motel. These are jobs that he balanced while attending law school. He chose law school as a path toward academia, deciding it was the right route for someone who wanted to teach but didn't want to do a traditional dissertation. Jones is pragmatic, he's service-oriented, he was such an asset to the State and Local Government Finance Division, and it is an honor for Treasurer Briner and I to present him with the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award.
Congratulations. Right.
Are you?
All right.
Thanks
Thank you.
for coming in. Yeah, thanks.
And we miss you.
And we miss you. Okay, Thanks, everyone. The next item on the agenda is attachment A in your packet. So the consent agenda action items, so starting at Ashe County and going through the miscellaneous action item for Orange. I'm sorry, Cindy, which items did Mr. Brown pull out besides Rocky Mount?
Wilmington.
Okay. Pulling out separately the Wilmington item for vote, so not including that in the next motion. Jennifer, do you have any items that you want to summarize or preview for us on the consent agenda? It's typically pretty par for the course, but want to make sure there's a chance to discuss.
There's nothing to add this month.
All right, great, thank you.
State auditor has something he'd like to
We'll
say.
get there. Yeah, we'll get there. So looking for a motion and a second, and then a discussion of the items on the consent. agenda.
Motion to approve consent with the exclusion of Wilmington.
Thanks, Mr. Stith. Looking for a second.
Second.
All right, second from Secretary Wooten. Does anyone have something to discuss?
Yeah, I do.
Please.
It's okay. Thank you. And thank you for that, Ms. Canada.
Sure.
So I do want to point out special obligation bonds by the city of Charlotte, approved by their city council on a 7-3 vote. This is $650 million of public money being borrowed by the citizens of the city of Charlotte. That money is going to the benefit of private industry, specifically Tepper Sports, the owner and operator of the Charlotte Panthers. In that regard, I want the public to know that myself and my team have gone to Charlotte and met with the ownership and leadership of the Charlotte Panthers. We've also met with the leadership of the city of Charlotte and have got, and under the authority of the state auditor's office, we're going to provide additional oversight of the expenditure of that $650 million. For context, that is the largest expense of public dollars in the history of the state of North Carolina directly to a private entity. So I don't think it's out of the lane of the state auditor to take an active approach on oversight and utilizing the watchdog function of the state auditor's office with the respect to the expense of those dollars. That being said, I will say that ownership and leadership at Tepper Sports, as well as the financial management, legal management team, and the leadership in Charlotte have been very cooperative, and I feel really good about the arrangement and the cooperation that we're going to have. And so what I have committed to both Tepper Sports and to the city of Charlotte is to not get in the way of the progress with respect to the expense of those dollars, but to work cooperatively with regular check-ins that we're going to set as a schedule with both of those entities. That being said, the city of Charlotte has a AAA credit rating, and the team at the LGC is confident in the city of Charlotte's ability to make those bond payments in a timely manner. So I don't want our involvement in any way to reflect any non-confidence in the ability of the city of Charlotte with respect to the financing of this. I just want the people of the city of Charlotte, the people of the state of North Carolina, that the state auditor's office understands that while this may not be unusual for the NFL, I mean, we could go across the NFL, and I'm the state auditor, so I have. Right? You know, Cincinnati, $55 million. City of Buffalo, $850 million. Las Vegas, $750 million. City of New York with Yankee Stadium, $1.2 billion. City of Nashville, $1.26 billion. Minnesota, $498 million. And the Kansas City Chiefs tops them all. The state of Kansas financing $1.8 billion for the Kansas City Chiefs facility. What does make this unique is it puts the city of Charlotte in company with the city of Jacksonville, where the city of Jacksonville has committed $775 million public dollars, like the city of Charlotte committing $650 million public dollars, and that stadium facility is privately owned as well in the city of Jacksonville as well as in North Carolina. So while this is not unique to the NFL, it is unique to the state of North Carolina in the sense of the size of the expenditure. So I wanted to make that announcement to the members of the LGC and to the public that we do have a really good working relationship, I believe, with the city of Charlotte and with Tepper Sports in terms of regular and routine additional oversight on the spending of those dollars. Because let's face it, that's a lot of money.
And it's the people's money.
Yeah, I've learned that. I tell people all the time, I've learned one thing in 15 months on the job as state auditor. Government never spent a dime of government's money. Government spends 100% of the people's money.
Other questions or concerns about the items on the consent agenda excluding Wilmington? Otherwise, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Cindy, will you call the roll?
Today's consent agenda began with Ashe County, running through the miscellaneous action item for Orange County, and we're excluding Wilmington from this vote. We have Stith and Wooten. Motion and second. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Auditor Bollig.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
Thank you all. That motion carries.
Thanks so much, Cindy. Turning to the item that was removed from the consent agenda is $73.5 million of limited obligation bonds for the city of Wilmington. Looking for a motion and a second and then discussion.
Move the item.
Mr. Stiff, thank you. All right, Commissioner Johnson, thank you. Any questions or discussion about these limited obligation bonds? All right, Cindy?
Okay, on Wilmington, Mr. Brown recusing and motion Stith, second Johnson. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Auditor Bollig.
Aye.
Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes. And Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thanks so much. And the last part of attachment A, your two non-action items for Davidson County and the city of Raleigh. Jennifer will explain these, but there's no vote needed.
This is Jennifer Wimmer. Good afternoon. The two miscellaneous non-action items deal with two entities, Davidson County, City of Raleigh. Both did refundings for savings, standalone refundings. Therefore, we're just reporting that Davidson County had a net present value savings after their delivered bonds of $1.1 million for 4.29%, and City of Raleigh was $1,095,671 or 2.395% of the refunded bonds. Just as a note, we are going to try to get a compiled list of all of them that have taken place since the resolution was made last summer to present at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, no vote, but any questions about either of those items? All right, moving on to attachment B, the viable utilities reserve. You've seen a few of these before, but I'll turn it over to Cindy to explain the resolutions.
Okay, thanks. Again, Cindy Aiken. Today, there are two resolutions, and you can vote on them, members, as a group, just together, or do two separate votes as you wish. Previous months, we have looked at resolutions that designated certain local governments as distressed. And today, we're switching gears and actually voting to approve grant funds to some units that were listed in the tables at the back of the resolution. Hopefully, if you had a chance to look at my little briefing here, just to kind of give you the overview. Normally, the LGC would not be involved in approving a grant, but the legislation requires that both SWIA, State Water Infrastructure Authority, and the LGC approve these grants coming out of the Viable Utility Reserve, specially set up by the General Assembly. The process begins with applications from units through the DEQ's process, and their staff ably evaluates and has their criteria ranking system. And they have a spring and fall cycles. So this is the spring cycle. They had a meeting in February and approved the grants as listed on the two different resolutions. I split them into two groups. The first group was more like study grants, asset inventory and assessment. And then the other kind is the merger and regionalization feasibility studies. And we had several units doing that. That resolution is a little bit long because I included some paragraphs just as kind of background. For instance, page 2 of that resolution, the second and third whereas, just kind of gives some justifications, a little strong, but reasons why these are valuable tools, the AIAs and the merger studies. So you see the list of units there that they know. And then the second resolution was for the actual projects, water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure, also known as wastewater. And you can see those. And then I have just a little note that on the project funds, money or a group of units are getting additional funding either by loan or grant because, to help support the project. Not the VUR grant doesn't necessarily cover everything. We, I believe, from DEQ, Shadi Escaf and Bob Taylor and Matthew Rushing I don't think they came in person, and they may be online if you have.
Shadi's outside.
Oh, Shadi's outside, okay.
If needed.
Oh, okay, thank you. I've been stuck in here. If you have any questions on any details of any of the grants specifically or their process, he'll be happy to address those. But again, we can vote on these together if you like or separately.
All right. Thanks so much, Cindy. Members, if you're okay with voting on them together, that's what I would recommend for expediency. So looking for a motion and a second on both resolutions, and then we can discuss.
Move for approval of
So
motion.
moved.
Mr. Stith and Mr.
Second.
Brown for a second. Any questions about either of the BUR resolutions related to these grants? Secretary Marshall.
I do have one, and it may be a Chatty question. I see Benson is on here, and Benson has recently been announced for the Vulcan Materials Plant, which is going to be a huge, huge, huge operation. Do the funds from this particular grant apply to a town that is about to get this kind of commercial upgrade that probably has been negotiated with incentives and everything else in it? I mean, I realize, because I'm concerned that this fund is absolutely a vital thing that we need, and that should it be used for something that has this much commercial oomph to it?
Okay, and one thing, that's a good question because I forgot to mention my note at the bottom of the table page for that resolution. So Benson is receiving an asset inventory and assessment grant. And I skipped over it in my verbal explanation, but in a summary, it just reminds us that when you are declared a distressed unit under this legislation, you're required to do a number of things, and the AIA is one of them. And so I don't know, there's Shadi. Hey, come on up to the table. Shadi Escaf from DEQ. Ms. Secretary, you may need to repeat your question. This deals with Benson getting an AIA.
Yeah, I know that Benson has been on the list, but Benson has just in the last 6 months, probably, an announcement of a huge Vulcan Metals plant coming in there in the Benson territory. Does the funds from this also support those kinds of activities that are going to be hugely commercial and a lot of money going into it and state incentives and all that kind of stuff? Does this apply to an action like that?
Thank you so much. My name is Shadi Ascaf. I'm the Director of Division of Water Infrastructure at DEQ. Thank you for your time. I believe the Benson application, the Benson grant, is specifically for an asset inventory and assessment,
Right.
which is looking at the conditions of the existing infrastructure that they have. I don't remember if it's water or wastewater.
Right.
So it's not necessarily about future development. It's more about taking a look at what they currently have in stock, what the conditions are, and how can they plan for the long-term sustainability of those assets. So in some respects, yes, it would help, because if they know what the conditions of the assets are and where they need to focus on rehab and replacement of aging infrastructure, it's going to help all customers, including new developments. But the grant specifically, the project specifically, is not about the development. It's more about what do you currently have.
Right, it's an assessment grant, yes. Okay.
Shadi, thanks so much. Any other questions for Shadi before we let him out of the hot seat? Any other questions on these? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No other questions. We have a motion and a second for both of these resolutions. Cindy would call the roll.
All right, sure enough. So we had the two resolutions for the VUR grants, AIA, MRF, lots of acronyms, and the water and the wastewater projects. That's motion Stith, second Brown. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Auditor Bolick.
Aye.
Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Ms. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Hughes.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson. Aye. And Treasurer Briner.
Aye.
All right, thank you all. Motion carried.
All right, thanks so much. Before we get into attachments C and D, which are Littleton and Rocky Mount, I anticipate that those may take a while. So members, I want to jump ahead to a couple of the items that I was going to cover under secretary updates. And in particular, I want to give you an update on the town of Speed because we've been keeping you updated on this every month. And we have someone from the league here that I've asked to speak to this as well. Joe Durham, if you are over on the side, willing to come up. Joe is very diligently working with the town to take the different actions that the town is required to take to dissolve. As we've talked about this before, they have to pass various resolutions and have public hearings. And I know you've heard me say this, but the towns in North Carolina that most need to dissolve are also least able to carry out the actual functions of dissolution. So, and Joe can summarize this a bit more for you, but there are problems such as a meeting is scheduled and then the clerk fails to notice it, so the meeting can't be legally held, or a meeting is scheduled and noticed and then members don't show up for a quorum. So there are some real true logistical challenges in actually getting this dissolution across the finish line. And I'll turn it over to Joe just to add anything else you want to add. And we thank you for your work with the town on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Canada. Been working with Joe Durham, Municipal Operations Consultant for the League of Municipalities. Been working with the town of Speed for the last 2 years. We started the dissolution process with the adoption of a resolution October 10th. And there's a lengthy process that's prescribed by the general statutes and which requires public hearings and various notices. For example, we had a public hearing, a scheduled public hearing last night, but that public hearing was not held due to the town not having a quorum. And so you may not understand, but the Speed is a very small town. The state auditor is aware of that. Of 64 people, 34 households. Didn't have a chance to have a quorum last night, but we did have 25 people to show up because we did, of course, the general statutes require that there be a public notice, but we mailed notices to each of the 34 households. So we had 25 out of 34, so pretty good participation by the people of the town of Speed. Next step in the process is to have a plan. I presented a general plan to them last night of dissolution. This is really what do you do with the assets that the town currently has in terms of real property and cash and other personal property items. So we're working on that process. We are hoping, as Ms. Canada indicated, to have another meeting, a public hearing with a quorum there at their meeting in about 2 weeks from now. So getting them to also adopt, hopefully, a draft plan for dissolution that would be presented to the LGC at their meeting at your meeting in May. The dissolution, if everything goes as expected or anticipated, would be effective June 30th of this year. And so fingers crossed to make sure we can get this across the line. But again, there are challenges, smaller jurisdiction with lots of financial challenges as well as logistical issues. Glad to respond to any questions or if there are any at this stage.
Joe, thanks so much. Any questions? Yeah, Secretary Wooten, please.
Mr. Jarvis, good to see you again.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Is it your sense, because we've been talking about this for quite some time on the LGC, is it your sense that there's a lack of motivation for some that would result in the lack of quorum that's needed? Or is it just logistical, that getting the right people, all
Yeah, I would-
the people there?
That's a great question. I would think it's both. It's some logistical issues. And again, you have people serving on this board now who are not going to have a position after June 30th. So the motivation for them to attend meetings, to call in, that's been a challenge. So we're going to take some measures, hopefully in anticipation of the next meeting, to ensure that we have a quorum there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, if the town is not able to complete this action, there's no reason that the LGC could not do it for them, especially since the town has indicated a willingness to dissolve. But it's always my interest that the local government's desires be self-control as much as we can. I certainly think it's preferable for a town to take this action and have agency itself rather than the commission to do it. But you know that the financial situation, as Mr. Durham indicated, is very poor in speed. You declined to withhold sales tax from them for this current year, I believe, at my recommendation because of the planned dissolution. So certainly all of that is something we would need to revisit if they're not able to move this forward. Secretary Marshall.
Did you have an actual general conversation, even though it wasn't an official meeting?
Oh, yes. We met for an hour and a half last night, again, responding to questions and concerns from the 25 residents who were in attendance, concerns with garbage pickup, street lights, those types of things. So we responded to those.
Did you get a sense of momentum from the crowd?
Well, I think someone in the crowd were surprised because they hadn't heard of anything. But again, as we talk about how long we've been working on this town's current financial condition, haven't adopted, they're 5 audits late, a number of other financial deficiencies which have been outlined. I think people understood that. And really at this point, there is no going back. There's no way of saving the town in terms of keeping their charter. So it's either done through this voluntary process or through the LGC. And I think people understand that.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Mr. Durham? You can no vote on this item. This is just an update for you. I want to keep you appraised.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Joe was actually not scheduled to be on the agenda, so appreciate your just stepping in to give the update. All right, turning to the city of Rocky Mount and the town of Littleton. I believe our plan is to open the meeting for public comment first. We'll limit that to 30 minutes and then turn to discussion on behalf of the members. I will say before we start the public comment, just as an overview, members, you already know all of this, but to be thorough, the reason that this item is on the agenda at all is that the LGC has been involved with the city of Rocky Mount for quite a little while. There have been various issues that have come up financially over the years, in the past more so in the water and sewer fund, but then over the past year or so, particularly in the general fund. This is a unit that does have debt that has been approved by the LGC, so I'm very concerned and interested in making certain that the city is able to make its debt service payments and not default on its debt. As I believe Treasurer Briner has said, we have not had a default in 80 years and it's not going to happen now. Our staff have talked regularly with the city manager and the finance officer since fall, trying to track the process of their making budget cuts and tracking revenues and those sorts of things. And I had originally believed that things were more or less on track, but then maybe about 2 months ago, the city raised concerns that they have the potential to run out of cash, obviously hugely worrisome. And I became much more involved with the city at that time. Commission members, you've seen in your packet the letter that I sent to the city council. That letter came after speaking at their board budget retreat, where I gave basically the exact same message. And I since then have spoken at a city council meeting where I again gave almost the exact same message, which is the financial situation of Rocky Mount is very concerning. It is very bad and it is fixable. Unlike many of the units that we work with that have finance problems that are much more complicated and intractable, being 4 years behind on an audit, for example, is very hard to fix. Doable, but very hard. This unit more or less has budget problems, and that is easier and quicker to fix if they were to have the will to do so. Because of that, I requested that the city council, members of the city council, the mayor pro tem, the city manager, and the finance officer attend this meeting today, and they are here. So thank you very much, City of Rocky Mount. The staff have been particularly great to work with and extremely responsive. That's a bit of a background to where things sit today. We'll go ahead and move into the public hearing, and then we'll hear from the mayor pro tem, and the staff. And the staff will update you on the change in their finances since about a month ago, which are the numbers I spoke to many of you about. So thank you so much. Cindy, please, on the
Question and clarification, yes, you said 30 minutes. Is that for both towns, or are you doing it separately?
for Rocky Mount.
Just Rocky Mount?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
And, oh, if I could,
Please.
when it's your turn, please come forward and we will be timing you, and we'll have a little sign here, 1 minute left and time is up. So you can kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That was my question. Per speak, I'm having city council flashbacks, public hearings, and I think it's good for people to have an expectation. So we have a block of 30. How much per speaker? So people can.
The chair has asked for you too.
And so maybe while we're getting that ready, I'm going to pile on a little bit to what Secretary Canada said. We've been at this 94 years. We have taken over 12 towns in 94 years. We have 1,100 municipalities in this state. It almost never gets this bad. When it does, it's usually because it's terminal. It's usually because a business has moved or a large population base has left and it's not going to be fixed. This is not that. This is simply a failure of will. And we are here to help impose that will today. So that, to me, is the simple punchline. I appreciate the leaders of Rocky Mount being here, but we need to get to a place where there is the will to fix a very, very serious problem. So with that, let's open public comment.
Logistically, who has the actual list among staff? There was a list being circulated of signups.
Nobody has signed up in advance. Can you indicate to me if you would like to speak? Sorry. If you would like to speak.
She distributed a list.
Do we have anybody?
No one has signed up. No one wants to speak. Okay. World's
Never happened in
quickest
city council.
public hearing. I misunderstood the design of the town, so.
Simple. Thank you. I am not.
All right, so commission members, we will turn this discussion over to the city of Rocky Mount. If you guys want to come on up to the table there, please bring up another chair so we can have all four of you up and introduce yourselves. I see there's a handout. If some of our staff can help get that distributed to members. Thank you so much. Kendra. The city ended up without, okay, sorry. right. I think we're good. So thanks for being here. Will you all introduce yourselves and let's hear what you have to say.
All right, thank you for the invite. My name is Elton Daniels. I am the city manager.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Spivey. I'm the finance director.
My name is Sandy Robertson. I'm the mayor of the city of Rocky Mount. I just want to say thank y'all for this opportunity to come and to be able to answer questions before this board. Ms. Canada has been fantastic to work with, and we really, again, appreciate the opportunity.
I'm Jabars Walker, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Rocky Mount. Thank you for the opportunity.
So much. Commission members, one thing that I ask the city to do is to walk you through their financials. And so I think Cheryl will turn it over to you. And I should say, welcome back to Cheryl, who a long time ago was in fact on staff at the Local Government Commission. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
so what do we have here?
Yeah. I'll expand my introduction a little bit. I started with the staff of the Local Government Commission at the age of 27 and was here for 13 years. Since then, I've been working for various local governments and public authority within North Carolina and Virginia for a total of 27 years with local government finance. So I retired and unretired so that I could join the city of Rocky Mount in the summer. I had seen the audit report and felt like that this was an area that I could benefit professionally and that I could provide benefit to the city.
Before she goes into detail, I would like to say part of the reason why we are in the financial position is because prior to me becoming city manager, the city had not had a qualified finance director for quite some time. I think it was 2001. So part of the corrective measure is hiring qualified staff, which I feel confident, 100% confident in Cheryl's ability. And so I think we are going in the right direction, even though we have a large mountain to climb. But I think this is step one, was having someone that's qualified in that position.
So the handout that you have before you, the front page is the one that's bicolored, and then the back is a breakdown of the funds. And I'll start with our first cash flow projection. We began projecting cash flows. We projected through June 30 of 26. And this was when we first noticed that we had a cash problem. And at that time, the cash flow projection that we had is the one that you see in blue. And it does, in fact, show that through June of 26, we still were projecting to have cash in the bank to the end of the fiscal year. Unfortunately, as we began to work closer with the money and with our obligations, we realized that without making additional changes, we would by the time we got to the end of July, we would not have cash remaining. So we prepared additional cash flow projections, and throughout that process, the City Council adopted a few cost-cutting measures, and I'm going to read from one of these. On February 23rd of 2026, City Council adopted an ordinance to amend and revise our fiscal year 2026 operating budget and reduce total appropriations by $29.6 million. This was a large reduction, and it included a RIF, about a 10% layoff of our full-time employees, as well as other cost cutting measures. And in February, the council adopted additional cost-cutting measures that again decreased a number of expenditures, and these were expenditures that were numerous across the board, most of which were brought by the departments, where they saw that we could make additional cost-cutting measures. In addition to that, just this week, we increased our rates, our rates on electricity, gas, water, sewer,
Across the board, across all of our
across all of them,
utilities.
including our garbage pickup. So, and with all of those measures that were taken into place, we now have the cash flow projection that I've color coded in the orangish color.
Cheryl, if I could interrupt you quickly, just for Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Hoffman, I've just emailed you the file that it was handed out in the room. Thanks, Cheryl. So in other words, the blue was the before, when you raised the alarm for us.
That's right.
You've implemented various changes, and the tan orange section is the after. So I see that in July 26, you were projecting to be 3.4 million in the red, and now you're projecting to be 4.8 million in to the good.
Yes, that is correct. And you want to add that the debt service payments are included in these projections.
Very glad to hear it.
Yes.
Yes.
The change in revenue, about $1 million a month, is that entirely the utilities change?
The only thing that's not utilities is the solid waste that's in the general fund.
This is all funds.
This is all funds.
This is all funds together.
Can I ask a question? real quick?
Please.
So my team, Mr. Mayor asked my team if we would go back up, and we did go back, and as you're aware, and got some information. Now, our team did compare last year's actuals to the new projected dollars. So my numbers show a general cut fairly substantial. March, for example, 2.3 million, April, 2 million, May, 2.6, June, 5.6 million. I'm saying these to see if I'm about right. 2.6, August, 4.5, September, 3.9, October, 4.9, November, about $1 million, and December, about 4.3. Those were what we show. Those are real actuals to what your new projected given actions taken by the council. Does that sound?
That does sound correct.
Okay. Those are substantial.
And my goal, part of the reason why we're here now and we feel confident, not great, but confident that we will make it to the end of the year, including our debt payments, is because all the work that has been done over the last several months has been with regard to fiscal year 26 budget. We haven't really got into the fiscal year 27 budget, which I anticipate will have further cuts, reductions across the board, including a restructure of the entire organization, which could easily save the city anywhere on the low end from 1.5 million on up. And this does not include any possible adjustments to the tax rate, because the only thing that we were able to adjust before the end of this fiscal year were the utility rates. But I do anticipate that we will likely be evaluating the tax rate as well.
A question that I have for you is that I know in this year's budget is the first budget that was yours personally as the city manager. And I read your budget message, and you focused on shoring up the general fund. And you talked about not drawing down general fund balance. And the budget that you recommended and that was adopted did not rely on any appropriated fund balance. Subsequently, you have drawn down fund balance. And I know that when I asked you about what happened, what changed, you said that the revenue projections were not solid, which I can see from the numbers. You didn't have to say that. I've looked at the past 3 years of your budget to actuals, and the revenue is budgeted too high. And you will see that the revenue comes in under budget, and next year the budget for that revenue line has been increased anyway. So all of that is a way to say, I am concerned that your budget in recent years has not been built on accurate revenue projections. And it's won't be easy for your council to balance the budget if the revenue projections are too high. So talk to us a little bit about what steps you're taking to make sure that the revenue projections are accurate.
Well, number one, I have a qualified finance director now. I can't speak to anything that happened in the prior years because I was not over budget at that point in time. I was employed by the city, but I can talk about since April 14th. So technically, I've been manager almost 1 year. And so since that time, we are reevaluating how the budget is actually prepared. If you recall last year when we adopted the budget, the audit was 8 months late. And so we just can't operate like that because we don't know what our fund balance is at the point until at the end of the fiscal year. And so those mechanisms are being corrected now, and we're being more conservative on our revenue projectors. In the past, I think that was a way to use to balance the budget, but now we're going, like the state auditor said in his report, looking at the previous year actuals, and I have a multi-pronged approach with regard to the budget projections. Before, I think it was the responsibility of possibly one individual. Now I have multiple people involved in that step, including myself. And that's just not within the organization. I have experts outside the organization that's also been willing to assist us, including big organizations like the League of Municipalities.
Mr. Hughes, sorry. Mr. Hughes, then Ms. Johnson.
Yeah. One question on the revised numbers. The estimated capital outlay is significantly less, more than $10 million. Are those projects being postponed, or those projects being permanently removed? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Both. The things that are very, what I would say consider essential are just being deferred, but some things that were kind of like things that we will need in the future, but not necessarily right now, have been eliminated until we readjust and get back on better financial footing.
Commissioner Johnson.
Are your financial reports presented monthly to the entire board?
Yes, the financial reports are submitted monthly to the board, no later than the 20th, because we have to have time to reconcile. Prior to me becoming manager, the accounts were not reconciled for over a 13-month period. And so now they receive that by the 20th of each month, on top of additional things, because sometimes we have changes. As soon as I see a change, I send that to them directly. So sometimes they get it more than once a month.
And if I could add on to that, this is the first time recently since Elton and Cheryl have been in position that we've gotten those financials. Really only the last 6 or 7 months, and that's a great aid.
That's very important. If you realize something is under or over budget, so since you haven't been getting those reports, you wouldn't realize it was, okay. I understand. Thank you.
And I'll add, that's further compounded by the fact that the reports historically have been on a cash basis versus an accrual basis. So it's awful hard to make a cut and understand that something's one and done and project that out over a period of time to see if you're on the right pathway. So, it's taken the reconciliation that Cheryl's had to go through for those 13 months to get it right. It took her an extended period of time to get that in place. It took her a couple of months to get her staff organized and to be able to even generate those reports. So hopefully, and I believe that we will have this going forward, that tool to be able to manage as a council as well.
Secretary Marshall.
You probably don't want me talking at this. I am the longest serving member of this body and have a very thick file on Rocky Mount. I felt like it was important to do that. I question the culture of your whole city finance and whole city arrangement. Repeatedly, this city has tried to finance big things at 59 months so that you didn't have to come to us. And in reading this stuff, I find that there's also now a $6.6 million rolling stock that was again done for 59 months after we've had this conversation with you as a town about trying to avoid the oversight of this organization. As the treasurer said in the introductions, this is to protect our AAA bond rating. It's to protect the integrity of the city. It's to protect the integrity of all the taxpayers, wherever they might be located in North Carolina. And I just see a failure of leadership. Clippings, they're replete with a bad hire prior to your current city manager who, with a little bit of due diligence, you'd have found out, put another town into a deficit just like you all are headed towards. All the finance managers in your history, I wonder Were they really incompetent? Or did they send suggestions forwards that were not carried forward? Were they pressured to try to do something and then they decided, I'm out of here? Or did they just see a train wreck coming and they said, I'm not going to be a part of it? I mean, this is a long history. This isn't just the last, I mean, this has been since 2021, something like that. I found it very disingenuous, I guess, on the part of the town when we were doing the fire department. We asked for somebody to come talk about the finances, and somebody sent 3 of your finest officers in their absolute dress uniforms. They knew nothing about finance. They could tell us a lot about fire station. But you never responded appropriately to the local government commission on the kind of questions and suggestions that we've made. I went back through a couple years worth of FPIC responses. They were like, we'll study this, we'll get in a survey about that, we'll get somebody to come in, and yet no follow-up. And maybe that's our fault for not asking for more follow-up. But I find the culture to be unworthy of the citizens of Rocky Mount. And I do hope, sincerely hope that it's changed.
I just want to make one comment. I can't talk about all of that, but I want to say that my goal is to change the culture. And I feel like we're on the right path. And I do think that you're correct on some of that stuff, but I don't want it, whenever we talk about city managers and the culture, I want to make sure we make the distinction between the current administration and prior
Right.
administration.
But you have the same board, save one person, for all this time.
I will speak on culture piece. Since I've been on in 2022, I know coming into some decisions were difficult when I first come in. And I say even now, I think we have moments where we do kind of disagree, but I think it's been a lot better since I say since 2022. 23, it was a little rough. 24, 25, we have got along a lot better, I think, in closed session, even going out in the public. So I think the culture has changed. It has got a lot better than it used to be. So I think it's getting better. And I think with the new administration, things have changed since Elton has been on, with getting certain reports, certain things that we have asked for, been able to get a lot quicker, things that we weren't used to receiving, even as a council person coming on in 2022, that we have started to get since he has been city manager. So a lot of things have changed.
But what did you as council members do when you didn't have budget reports to be able to make a budget for the coming year?
So, Madam Secretary, I can speak to that. I can tell you, we couldn't get a budget passed last year without the requirement that we get annual reports. We met on an ongoing basis and were unsuccessful. Ultimately ended up in the departure of the city manager. And we have not had those reports until Cheryl came into play. It's something that we're not capable, nor I think really is it appropriate for the city council to engage in the day-to-day management of the actual city. And so with that limitation, we've worked as best as we possibly can. Your concerns about culture, your concerns about the data points certainly are well received, and I understand exactly how you would get there. I will say, and from my own experience, and I've been mayor since 2019, that we have worked together better as a council, particularly in light of this current crisis, than we ever have. Politics seem to be more to the side than they ever have been, and we're committed to charting a course to success for the city of Rocky Mount, for the residents.
I hope that pans out.
So I've been living with the city of Rocky Mount now for the better part of 6 to 8 months. Appreciate the team and the Mr. Mayor and your team and the finance team, Mr. Manager, and your cooperation with our team. Were the city of Rocky Mount not to be able to continue as a going concern, it would certainly be the largest failure of a municipality in the history of the state of North Carolina. And I can tell you from my staff's point of view and from what I know, and I've talked to members of the LGC, members of this body do not, and I'm certain that Madam Secretary, being, as long as you've served the people of North Carolina, you don't want to see this happen either. I spent 2 hours on my shift at the state fair at our booth, shaking hands and meeting people. Every other person wanted to know about the city of Rocky Mount when I was doing that turn. The general public, whether they live in Rocky Mount, whether they live in Nash County, there is an affinity for the city of Rocky Mount and for Nash County and what Rocky Mount represents to the people of North Carolina and particularly the people of Eastern North Carolina. And so Certainly, my team has been working really hard to try to get all the facts straight. I think our report was very even-handed, balanced, and told all the facts. So to the general public, I would say consume that. Go to our website at auditor.nc.gov and read the audit. I think it's fair and balanced and gives a true picture of what we have. But I'm going to speak for myself. I wasn't elected to manage Rocky Mount or to make decisions in Rocky Mount. And, if the LGC finds itself in a position to have to assume control of the day-to-day finances and management of the city of Rocky Mount, I view that, and again, I'm speaking for myself, not for this board, but I view that as a failure of the politically elected leadership. And the way I was raised, if that's the case, you don't get to be an elected council person and still make decisions if the LGC is going to come in and have to manage the day-to-day. So if we get to the point that the folks who signed up to run, councilman, signed up to run, put your name on the ballot, make these hard decisions, and the LGC ultimately has to come in and take over, my recommendation and my sort of expectation would be that we would have a mass resignation of city council members. Because it's not fair to the people who elected folks to represent them and to make tough decisions. So you got to make these tough decisions. It's not easy. I know. But you know what? You signed up to do it. And the people elected you to make those decisions. And it shouldn't be a situation where, because we also don't want a precedent on this board where when a municipality gets into financial trouble, they run to the LGC, and then the LGC has to make the tough decisions on finances when we weren't specifically elected to make those decisions for the members of the public in that town. And so I agree that we expect a lot. I think people expect a lot of all the members of this board who are elected. And when I make mistakes, I'm glad to say I made a mistake. When I think I need to do better, I'm glad to say I need to do better or my team needs to do better. And that's what I think the people in Rocky Mount expect. At least that's what I've heard from members of the public. And so I, for one, am ready to see some tough actions taken, whatever needs to be made. Usually 3 decisions that need to be made in this. 1, you got to cut. 2, you got to raise revenue. Or 3, you got to close up shop. And 3 is not an option here. So we're really down to 2 tough decisions.
Mr. Auditor, I will respond by saying, I think your representations are fair. And if we got to the point that we absolutely require the LGC to take over operations, I think we're all in agreement that that's a failure of leadership. I have seen from our council and I have seen from our staff a commitment to making sure that we are solvent and going forward. And we've had some very, very difficult situations, very, very difficult conversations. It's been hard. Politics do come into play. But we have seen the light, and we're moving for that direction. I will ask the LGC to at least consider that we found ourselves in a very difficult place without any kind of real resources, a failure of our administrative staff, an inability to be able to produce quick financials, to be able to establish KPIs and bogeys to be able to shoot at, to try to move forward in a quick, responsive fashion. We are finally at that place that I believe that our team can do that. I am grateful for the decisions that our manager has made in hiring Cheryl. If he didn't do anything else in his life, he did a great day's work then. And we're so
all my staff I've hired are good. I just Cheryl.
I know. I'm saying to me, these are the finance people. I will say that that's been a great day's work, and I will say he's got a great team overall. And Cheryl has been able to bring things forward, and we have certainly gotten the memo. Certainly understand the seriousness of this. I didn't run for mayor to come before y'all to have this situation. This is certainly embarrassing for the city. It's not a place that we wanted to be. However, we have the team in place, and I believe we have the responsiveness to be able to move forward. And the question now is only the political will. And I believe what I've seen over the last, feels like 72 hours in the last 24, has been commitment moving forward. And I promise you this, if I don't feel it, I'll certainly raise my hand.
I mentioned that because I did see the actuals to the new projected. It does seem like there's some serious movement.
There has been. There's a lot of work to do. I mean, the other practical component is after realizing that we have no cash and the go forward on the cash flow tables and the recognition of the problems associated with that, how do you bring short-term change, and then how do you really bring what I'll call institutional change to the story? And that's got to happen in this 2027 budget period. We've got to rebuild balance. I think that it's incumbent on our council, it's incumbent on the team, and we know that. We're aware of that. And so the question is going to be how much balance can we build, and how can we provide the services that the city of Rocky Mount and her residents expect on a day-to-day basis? And we're hearing that every day. It was 2 hours for you, Mr. Auditor. I can promise you.
More than that. My phone blows up.
I can promise you it's 32 a day for me.
I understand. I know it is. I know.
So I very much appreciate the short-term progress here and expect more of it. And thank you for all of your work turning the ship around. I guess the point I want to make is a simple one. And that is the decisions that need to be made, whether they're by the LGC as we take it over or by you all, are actually identical. The number of things that can be done in short order to fix the city's finances are few. So you know what they are. You need to do them. You've started. But as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify.
That's right.
So I don't think we collectively, and please correct me if anyone thinks differently, feel a lot of trust for the city of Rocky Mount right now. But we're willing to walk down this branch a little bit with you. And we will verify it pretty quickly, and we'll be ready to act should we not be happy with what we see. What do you think?
Sure.
It's just Nancy Hoffman. Can I ask a question?
Mr. Hoffman, please.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, there have been a number of years here. A number of you have served on this council for a considerable period of time. So you bear responsibility for the decisions that were made, and perhaps a lack of oversight. You can't just can't blame it on city staff because you hired them. But my concern at this point, with all due respect, is you've made some decisions about raising some revenue. That's not going to get you in the short term or the long term to perhaps where you've made some cuts. You've obviously overestimated your income for a number of years. How do we know that you actually are going to get a good picture of what your revenue is going to be for the next fiscal year? So those are some questions I think that just in my mind that need to be answered. As someone who served as an elected official on the city of Greensboro City Council for 14 years. I'm disturbed at the history that we're looking at here, and we really need some very clear, solid answers, I think.
I'll answer that partly, and then Cheryl, feel free to chime in. One of the things is that, as I stated earlier, we have multiple people in the process of making projections now, so the city is not relying on one individual. We also have some updated technology that we're trying to get. But more so, it just relies on the multi-pronged approach. Instead of having one person making those projections, we actually have multiple people making those projections, as well as outside people from other agencies assisting with the process. And council doesn't know this now, but I will be presenting something on the upcoming council agenda to reclassify a position to have a chief budget and strategy person added to our staff, not adding a new position, but reclassifying one that we already have to give Cheryl some additional help.
I would like to add, Commissioner Hoffman, that I also believe that the real test is where the rubber meets the road, and that's looking at the monthly reports. Are they matching to the revenue projections that we have? Are they matching to the expense expectations that we have? And if they don't, we've got to have the flexibility to pivot. And that pivot may look like withholding capital outlays. It may look like short-term addresses, and it may look like long-term approaches, but we've got to be nimble enough to be able to do that. I believe that we have the tools in place to do it. Now, proof's in the pudding. Every month as we look at it, if you're not seeing it, we're not seeing it, then we've got a problem. But I don't think that's where we're going to be going forward.
The other thing that I would add to speaking of the capital, because we've had to defer some things and there are a few capital projects that we still have to move forward. For example, we're working on a current pump station because in one project area, we're at capacity for homes build out. Once we complete that pump station, we'll have a greater capacity to increase our tax base as well. So I do think we have a number of things down the pipeline that will not just focusing on expenditures and increasing revenue, but expanding our tax base as well.
One of my
Let me ask this question. Nobody likes raising taxes, and I think your tax rate is what, 62 cents?
Yes, ma'am. It was reduced several years ago when both counties did revals. We went a little bit above revenue neutral. Last year, I recommended that we increase it a little bit, and this year it's likely we'll be recommending that we do something again.
So you're considering a tax increase?
I do believe that is the case. We haven't ran the projections yet because we were focused on correcting the matter at hand with the fiscal year 26 budget. But I do anticipate that we will be evaluating all sources of revenue, including taxes and fees across the board. Because the decision that we made just recently, the recommendations was just for utility rates, but we also have other fees across the board for other departments like Parks and Recreation and building and inspections that we can evaluate as well. So I do think we will look on the expenditure side as far as cutting, but I think we have to look at both sides of the equation, cutting and increasing revenue where we can within a reasonable amount.
Yeah, of course. I think you do as well. When's your next property reevaluation?
I'll let Cheryl handle that, but I think we're at least 3 years out.
Okay.
Secretary
Mr.
Wooten.
Manager.
Oh, please. Let's see, Secretary Wooten, Mr. Seth, and then Mr. Bullock.
I think my question really is kind of direct toward the elected officials who are here today. Although no one signed up for public comment today, I hope that every council meeting, there have been people and taxpayers from Rocky Mount who have shown up to talk. Because in a time when housing and gas and all of the living expenses are extremely difficult for the average person, even those living in Rocky Mount, to talk about fixing this by increasing fees and rates and possibly taxes, how do you explain that to the taxpayers of Rocky Mount that these kind of austere measures are being taken for something other than inflation and population growth, but they're being taken because of poor management? So what do you say to the residents of Rocky Mount that that's the way that you're going to fix this?
Sure.
At a time when it's hard to live day to day.
Well, if it's to the electeds, I'll be happy to take the question. While taxes increases are on the table, that's not necessarily the only fix. I think it needs to look like expense reduction, and I think that needs to occur in this 2027 budget. We will look at tax increases. We do have a healthy number of the public come and speak at every single meeting that we have, and I expect that will continue to do. In fact, the day that I become frightened is the day nobody shows up to talk about concerns. And we just have to be honest. We just have to tell the truth. The auditor's report, I think, has outlined that very well. I think it has been as clear as you can possibly make it. This has been mismanagement. This is where the money's gone. It's gone for stuff and it's gone for people. And we've had to address reductions in labor. When I became mayor, we had approximately 800 full-time equivalents, 825 full-time equivalents. As recently as this fall, we had roughly 1,000 FTEs. Start with the reduction of the payroll. We've made those efforts, we've made those initiatives, and we'll continue to do so. But there's no easy way, there's no comfortable way, and there's no fun way to do it.
Mr. Seth.
Ms. Manager, I know a little bit about Rocky Mount. And it really is in parallel to Secretary Wooten's question, because you outlined the array of increases from your utilities to other services. Do you have a per citizen cost on that? I mean, my question, as I say, is very parallel, because I'm just wondering, this certainly is a way to address the short term, but my concern would be impact on citizens' utilities. As I said, I'm real familiar with, well, I say slightly familiar, I'm real familiar with Rocky Mount. And so I'm just wondering how sustainable that will be as a long-term fix.
Yes, sir, I do. And so not on the tax side, because we haven't ran those numbers yet, but for the utility side, the average home would see approximately about a $45 increase from their current utilities, and that's across the board. And a lot of people, if you're familiar with Rocky Mount, some people say light bill when they're referring to utility bill. But when you break it down from each one of the utilities, Rocky Mount's rates are very comparable, competitive in the market across the region. In fact, even with the increase that was just implemented just a few days ago, we're still one of the lower tiers, and that's even before the other jurisdictions have their budget discussions for the upcoming year. So I feel confident that we are within range because the city of Rocky Mount historically has not raised rates for quite some time. So I do feel like we were behind the 8 ball being competitive with the market. So even with the increase, customers should see about a $45 increase. But overall, when you compare us to other municipalities as well as to the private sector, we are very competitive, if not lower.
And that actually was going to be part 2 of the question relative to your contemporaries in the region. So you are in line with that.
Yes, and they are still, they're going through their budget process now. And so even with our increase, we're very competitive.
Understood.
Just one follow-up I wanted to have, and it was about, clearly I understand the council manager setup of Rocky Mount. The mayor does not have a vote, correct, in council. What is the level of collaboration? And I get the manager putting together budgets, finances, and then city council approving, but what is the level of collaboration with the elected city council in terms of structuring work groups on the structure of budgets so that there's buy-in and collaboration from the beginning as opposed to the council getting a report and getting a review, but also maybe being asked to come into the room and sit down and actively take part so that there is, sort of a rubber meets the road, roll up your sleeves attitude of, all right, well, we're going to all get in the boat together here and work. Not only, we understand you're the manager and you're making these decisions on our behalf, but we're the city council that has been asked by the people of City of Rocky Mount to make these tough decisions. What is that? What does that look like? And is that something that you've discussed over the last few months in terms of collaboration with council and management getting in the room together?
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Bullock, I'm not ever going to say anything negative about my council. So we work well together. And I feel with me being the manager now, since I've since I've stepped into this role, the relationship has improved drastically. I feel like across the board, not just with elected officials, but with my executive staff, with my down the line staff, with my department heads, the way that I've kind of presented to everybody is all hands on deck. Forget about titles. We have to fix this together. So ideas don't just come from the top. They come from the bottom, they come from the side, they come from the public, and we try to put something together that we understand is not going to be popular to everybody, but we understand that it's what it's going to take to get us out of this current situation. I will say that over the last several weeks, several months, council has done a great job of meeting together. We meet together with small groups. I meet with the mayor and mayor pro temp every week. Sometimes those meetings last 2 hours, sometimes they last 3 hours, sometimes they last all day. I meet with other members of the council. Some of them don't actually meet in the office. Sometimes we'll have a phone conversation. Sometimes we'll go have coffee together. But I do feel like together they understand the scenario that we're in. I think everybody is putting aside their egos and really trying to get us out of this. And I hope that continues. But with regard to the budget preparation for the upcoming year, my goal is that they give me guidance, and I'm going to do the best I can to provide professional recommendations that gets us through.
Yeah,
Not just temporarily.
The reason I ask is there are other councils across the state, I know, and commissioners across the state that actually do work groups. Like they'll have a working group that gets in and works on this. And my personal experience, having served on the board at UNC Chapel Hill, we had a budget issue there, and we had board members. Again, look, I understand, and I got criticized as a member of the board at UNC Chapel Hill for I was accused of getting out of my lane and micromanaging. The way I look at it, when you see that type of situation and you're either appointed to a board or elected to a board with a fiduciary responsibility, I want to err on the side of micromanaging as opposed to ignoring the situation. And so that was the reason, because we got in a room with the administration so that when it did come forward for a vote, there was buy-in across the board, and members of council had their say in that meeting with certain, policy initiatives or funding of things, where the rubber meets the road, things that they know their constituents are concerned about. They understand that constituents need this, this, and this, or that, they need garbage picked up on Tuesdays, not Wednesdays. I mean, that kind of thing can really be instructive in terms of budget construction. And that was the reason I was asking, because I have seen that model be successful in other communities.
Yes, we've done it. I would say it's more, it hadn't been structured. It was more organic. I mean, the structured meetings with the mayor and mayor pro temp are pretty structured, but with the other council members, it's kind of organic. And they do have work sessions and work meetings and even what we call ward meetings, in which the staff and sometimes other elected officials will go to different wards and not always asking the public to come to us. We go to meet people where they are. And so I do think that we need to do more of that, but we are on the right track.
I would think that would be top of line, because I think we all need to come together there and let's get it done.
Thanks. Commissioner Johnson.
As an elected official, I realize it is sometimes hard to follow finances. So a couple of the boards that I'm on, each month when they present the monthly finances, they also put the percentage of that line item that has been spent. And for elected officials, that makes it much easier to follow.
To that point, we're actually trying to do infographics, but we show pictures too. So we have the percentages, and we also have the pictures to kind of show, because everybody has different forms of learning and how they perceive information. So we are adapting. So I agree with you, and that's what we're trying to do.
Treasurer Brenner.
So there are two fairly typical strategies in a financial situation, financial distress. The first is to look through assets owned and begin the disposal process of excess assets. Is that something you've begun to do?
Yes, we are. I can't get into confidential stuff, but yes, we are going through that process with a number of assets, including some of the things that was initially for economic development purposes.
But none of that shows up in your forecast right now?
Not yet.
So that would all be better.
This is what we know, and we do have some big opportunities coming up. But again, I wanted to paint a picture that was accurate. And if it happens to come through, then we'll be happy about it. But I just didn't want to put it without having concrete.
Thank you. The second strategy is typically grants to third parties, particularly to other nonprofits, to cease those. I think that's a material portion of your historic budget. What's the forecast for those?
So far, we've already eliminated those. We had about $230,000 still remaining in our cash account for future applicants. We have discontinued that. We do have, I think, 4 major incentive grants that people have already started work on. And so it's my understanding that we would like to, if possible, continue those because we have a contractual obligation. But moving forward, I will not be recommending any funding for the next few fiscal years.
Thank you.
I wanted to go back to a previous topic that was discussed, and that's over budgeting revenues, and that won't happen again. I mean, that will, as a staff person, and I've been much more involved in budget than the organization has generally had accounting and budget. But that was one of the first things I noticed is that revenues were, it's very easy to tell whether they're based on previous actuals, and ours weren't. And so that stopped last year. And I can guarantee as long as I'm in the seat that that will not happen again. And historically, in positions that I've had, I learned well when I was here, and I still follow those laws and those policies, and I'm not a very popular person. Haven't been since I went into the actual local government, but I figure that's my job.
Neither are we.
So
Cheryl even tells me no sometimes.
so and I my Mr. Brown and I have a little bit of history from a few years ago, but it's I mean, in my job, I think I'm one position that has to tell it like it is and be as conservative as I can be, and that is what will happen, moving forward in Rocky Mount.
Thank you.
Thanks. One concern that I have looking at your numbers is that although you do stay in the black, the bottom line, when I flip over to the back where I see you've broken it down by fund, and thank you for doing that, I see that your general fund, if I'm interpreting this right, your general fund available cash, which is the top line, goes down and continues to go down, and then is at 0 for July and August. So tell me if I'm reading that right, and then tell me, there's no margin there. There's no room for anything to go wrong.
That is
So
true.
that's very concerning.
That is true, and though it's reflected differently in the draft audit, so I have the audit numbers there. That the $10 million that we had at June of last year, $12 million of that was restricted money that shouldn't have been spent for that purpose.
So you were in the negative.
So we were in the negative last year. So this year's audit will show us in the negative, but the way we have to do it in accounting land is we have to borrow from another fund to show it at 0. But the June of last year was actually in the negative too. Now for the general fund, the large part of our revenues, being ad valorem taxes, starts coming in December and January. So we likely will get back to where we were last year in June, but we have revenues coming in. So again, it'll have to borrow from another fund, but revenues coming in so that when the next sales tax money comes in, we will be the general fund will be positive, and the plan is that it will remain positive at that point on.
Did council do budget ordinances to move from some of these enterprise funds to the general fund in past years?
I do not believe so, because they were short-term interfund loans.
Does that mean that you don't have to have?
It's accounting purpose, and
you don't have to have a budget ordinance if it's a short-term loan?
I'll say generally it's noticed after the year has closed in our case. So I don't.
Or what's
They-
that is
they-
done.
I would think that they had monitored it appropriately so that they could have made those amendments. But also what Cheryl says is sometimes it happens, and as long as it's short term, it's something that they can fix within the year, it may not.
Maybe a better policy to adopt that they have to present it to the council to do that. That would keep the issue first and foremost at the council meetings.
Commission members, one of the questions that some of you asked me about were any in the town especially is asked about are opportunities to restructure the city's debt to get them some sort of relief on cash flow. And Jennifer Wimmer's team has worked on that very fast and quite a bit on what opportunities her team could offer to try to give them a little bit of relief. Can Can you describe this just quickly, just for the commission?
So the current items that are available is there's a current refunding opportunity for a project that was issued in 2016. So it would be current. They would be able to close and receive those savings before June 30, so that they could start the fiscal year off, with that additional short-term, infusion of the refunded savings. And in addition to that, we have also been in contact with DEQ. They currently have 4 outstanding SRF loans, and for a total of 2.2 million. And so, although not as large as the 2016 financing, which total right now is about $30 million, that could be refinanced, we have been in touch with the city and DEQ, and that loan modification to give them some short-term relief on those payments will probably be coming to the local government commission in May.
Thanks for doing that. Any questions about that? Yeah, please.
We did that with Kyle Mountain.
Correct.
We did
And that
with
is,
Kyle Mountain.
and that is,
We were able to work with DEQ and Kyle Mountain, and that was let's help them to move along.
right, and we took that as our example, and DEQ was very willing to help in that situation.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I know we were emailing each other last night. It's my understanding that at least one of the RFPs for that should be going out any day now. Is that correct?
So we are already moving on that opportunity.
Another
Please.
quick balance sheet question. So the footnote here that the 6.8 million of state budget appropriations are not included in the balance sheet item.
Are they in the income statement items? Do they show up in revenue?
They don't show up on this at all.
Okay.
And the reason for that is when we began reporting to city council, we specifically pulled them out because we don't, we're not spending these for any other reason. And so we are keeping them segregated from anything else we have.
Now, I will say to that point, we are actively trying to pursue the state to see if they will allow us to unrestrict some of that for other projects, not going into our operations, but for some of those capital projects that Mr. Hughes discussed, because we do have some things that we need. And if we can just transfer it from one thing to the next, it'll be good for us.
Is there anything else that your team wants to share with the commission that you haven't shared yet?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. We're committed to moving forward. My mama told me a long time ago, you answer yes, you answer no, but you don't volunteer anything. But that's just a joke. But no, thank you for being here. And we're committed to providing you all the information as you need it, when you need it.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure working with the staff. They've made it clear that that we're in this together. They're here to support us, and from everybody that we've dealt with, it's been good. Even dealing with the state auditor staff over the last several months, it's been a pleasure working with them. We're learning a lot, but we do feel like even if we get bad information, it gives us an opportunity to have a baseline to move forward.
So commission members, are there other questions, or otherwise, how do you want to proceed with the city of Rocky Mount? Obviously, they've gotten very close to the edge. Sounds like they're trying to not go over the cliff. You have an obligation to keep them from going over the cliff. They have an obligation as well. So you probably know the array of options before you, but how do you want to move forward with the city? And I can also summarize the options if some of your options, if you would like.
I'm happy to lead off and say, I think local government is better at managing local affairs than Raleigh. And that level of deference has been extremely tested in this case. But with an extremely short leash, I'm prepared to keep walking down this path with you all. I think we've talked about bi-weekly reports back on how you're progressing on the plan. I think that's probably the appropriate cadence from my taste. And as soon as we see something in those bi-weekly reports that doesn't foot with what we've been told and what we expect, then you should expect us to convene in short order and remedy them ourselves. But I would like to proceed with a little bit of trust here that you will hit the plan you've outlined. For my taste, willingness to try, and I'm prepared to take that leap, at least for a very short time.
Someone, please.
I agree with everything you said. I think the other thing that we probably want to build into that short leash is participation, at least at some level, in their budgeting process for 27, 20, or 26, 27, because I think that's going to be really, really important. I think the other thing is the obvious July, August potential for cash shortfall. We know what our fallback positions are in case worst case happens.
So at this point, it sounds like maybe where the will of the group is what you would typically do in this case would be a notice of and resolution of warning. I've talked to each of you about that individually. You have seen a draft of that document. I can pass it out right now to the commission. It's certainly something that you can edit. This is the most severe level of warning that could be given to a local government unit. And the next step would be taking control of the finances. So under a notice and resolution of warning, the commission would come up with some types of conditions that it wants to list in the document so that we had discussed bi-monthly reporting, but Secretary Marshall has pointed out
There's some misunderstanding, whether it's legal or otherwise. Does that mean once every other month or twice a month? And so I'm suggesting that we say the 1st and the 15th of each month to be abundantly clear.
Sure.
Sounds great to me.
Wouldn't that be semi-monthly?
Don't go there.
Also,
This is Nancy Hoffman. The more reporting, the better. And as we move along, I really would like to see your 20, your 26, 27 budget that you're developing and that you will pass, and then what your planned budget for the following fiscal year. I assume that you do that as well. So I'd like to see what those look like when they're finalized.
It would probably be appropriate for the commission to consider asking the town to return to your May and June meetings to update them on the cash situation. Obviously, it sounds like you were wanting the city to give staff updates twice a month. But in addition, that's something that we can summarize for you, but it may be appropriate for you to consider requesting that the town return in May and June to describe where they are in their budget process, where they are in considering their revenues. I know they're still working on understanding the cash position of one of their funds in particular that's in the negative. So this is your call at this point on what sorts of conditions you want to put in. Did the copies make it around to all of the members? So you've seen this document outlines in the whereas clauses, essentially, how did we get to this point? What actions has the LGC taken to this point? What have we heard from the town? And then looking on page 3 at the second half of the page down at the bottom, the now therefore, this is the section. Obviously, you can edit any part of the document. This is the section where I would encourage you to consider, what do you want to now therefore? What restrictions and requirements do you want to put in to the town? Are you happy with what's here? There are other things you want to add. We'll change the use of bi-monthly. But this is your call. And Cindy, feel free to give any guidance because you've led commissions through these documents before.
I've already scratched out bi-monthly and provide the secretary updates on the 1st and 15th of each month until we say stop.
I think that's right. In terms of the involvement.
Would you codify in this document, because this seems like what we've had our one-on-ones conversations about, and with today's edits, would you codify in this document the reporting back to the commission by the city in May and June, and also
yes,
Commissioner Hughes's recommendation to be engaged? So would that be ABCD?
This is the appropriate place, yes. So are you interested in the in the city returning in May and June for updates? Yes, okay.
We'll make that D.
That could be D, and then E could be the engagement in their budget process.
On engagement in the budget process, would you like to make some specific, however, the city's process?
Yeah, we certainly, we want to see their 26, 27 budget. And then I'd like to see what they're projecting for the following fiscal year too, so.
I plan to have a draft for council by May 4th at the latest.
So
that's before your May meeting. So if you have, since you'll having the city come back in May, they could bring you that draft at that time to
Now, keep in mind,
summarize.
this is the draft that's coming from staff. They haven't had an opportunity to cut it up and add or whatever. I don't think it'd be much adding this time around. I think it'll be a lot of subtraction. But I will have, I'm committing to having that to them by May 4th.
Okay.
So.
And Mr. Manager, it sounds like you have a big tent on the forecasting, because I'm involved in that in another life. Would it be a benefit? And I don't know if our staff really engages in forecasting, but would that be of assistance to you as well?
I'm not turning down any help if you can do it.
We are here and available. In the conversations that I've had with Cheryl, some of my concerns about revenue forecasting are items that she had already previously identified. So I think we're on the same page, but we're a phone call, text, and email away.
I'm clear on.
So Cindy, what have we added?
All right, so any changes to A, the city should be monitoring current fiscal year's amended budget, continue to make all additional necessary, immediate, and significant. It's all very vague. Waiting for Secretary Marshall to raise her eyebrow. Significant reductions in spending to improve the cash situation. Situation's not a very good word. That's cash position. So
Yes, position.
each fund.
So continuing to monitor the current year budget and adjusting it as needed, quickly when needed. Okay.
And provide to the secretary updates on the 1st and 15th of each month until
further notice.
Updates on the cash position of every fund. And C might move to the end. I don't know. C right now says the city shall adopt an austere, structurally sound, balanced budget for fiscal 27 built on accurate revenue estimates that improves the cash position of every fund. And now we have Rocky Mount, if you want the same individuals here, shall return to the LGC meeting in May and June with updates and shall also present the staff's draft of the 27 budget.
I think my only one hesitation on that is having been staff to an elected board that was working on a budget document. I don't want to put the city in a hard position of the manager having to bring forward his recommended budget without the city selected board having seen it. So I'm willing to give a little bit of discretion to the city in terms of what they bring forward, but I would like a substantial update on the budget process and a general outline of where things are going. But certainly understand that you have those, you work for the council and have conversations that need to be had.
And what I was going to also, I don't want to recommend extra work for our staff, but, I mentioned earlier how I give council a report no later than the 20th each month that has year-to-date, month-to-month transactions. I can easily provide that to you all. Initially, we had it where it was always on the 15th, but we realized that sometimes the closeout for the previous month didn't occur till then. So they gave me a little leeway and say by the 20th. So that gives us a little flexibility. But as soon as that report is done as well, I can forward that to you.
Would it be helpful to have the dates from earlier to be the 5th and the 20th instead of the 1st and the 15th?
Thank you.
Yes. Got it.
And the updates, sorry, Cindy, all right.
Please.
So the updates will be a cash position, but I'm sorry, Mr. Manager, I didn't catch everything that you said, but the updates.
The monthly report that I give the council that has year-to-date, year-over-year comparisons, I give that to them and I can give that to the LGC as well
All right.
by the 20th.
Okay. So year-to-date, but it's the budget. Okay.
Financial.
Yes.
The financial report.
Just financials. All right, year-to-date financial comparisons, the same copies that are going to the city council.
Correct.
That could be, is that okay to combine it with the B section? Just
I
add
think
that
that's
to it?
fine, and I would recommend that when we get to a motion for this, you do the motion that you've done previously, giving staff the permission to make some wording and technical cleanup changes. The city doesn't have to get everything
Yeah.
precise.
And so instead of presenting the draft budget, I'm hearing a secretary suggest that the city staff will submit to you updates on the budget process. And I guess the first, do you want to see it at all before the city council? We can see it. It's up to you.
For
Updates,
May, updates on the status of the fiscal 27 budget process.
just that
Know that
simultaneously.
should be a robust update, not we're working on it. And then for June, the draft budget.
Okay.
Does that work for you, Mr. Manager?
Yeah. Cheryl had a comment about some of the report's technical distinctions. So
Yeah,
Cheryl.
just clarity, the report that goes to city council is a monthly report. Well, we will,
If I say the monthly report, we know what it is.
and that one is the one you would get on the 20th. And then we'll provide 2 times a month, however that's said,
Yeah.
the cash flow report.
5th and 20th work. Okay.
Get the language.
Could I
Please.
clarify something, please? Just, Mr. Manager, do you present your proposed budget to in a public city council meeting sometime in May, and then adjustments may take place before the budget is brought back in whatever the June date is to be voted on by city council? Is that your process?
That is the process. So my goal is to have the draft that's presented from staff in their hands by May 4th. And then I will do like a public presentation at a public meeting at a later
Right.
date. Also be in May. And then we will have
Right.
the final document in June.
Okay, all right. So that's fine. Just wanted to understand that, be sure that was your process.
Ms. Hoffman, if we say the LGC will receive updates on the budget simultaneously with the city presentation to each time it's presented to the council, and the final draft June, or budget due to us in June.
Yes.
Any date, or is it first week, second week?
1 second, I think.
Okay.
Would say before.
Well, there'll be a May draft, which is the manager's budget, and then there'll be a final budget that is voted on in June, so.
Yeah, so anytime in the middle of May would work. Because again, I'll have that draft by May 4th, and then we'll have work sessions on the 13th, 18th, and 20th, and then Memorial Day holiday. And so I would say sometime before the public hearing, which right now is tentatively scheduled for the 26th of May.
Do we want, we can send it prior to the public.
Public hearing, correct.
Okay, thanks. Commission members, any other questions on this? Otherwise, looking for a motion to adopt the resolution as amended with permission for staff to make clarifying and technical changes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Otter.
Second.
Mr. Stiff.
Auditor and Mr. Smith. And happily, this is recorded, so I can listen to the recording.
Thanks. Will you call the roll?
Yeah, okay, so this Rocky Mount resolution of notice and warning, directing the city to do certain steps. If we are planning that failure to do so, the commission may take steps to enforce General Statute 159-181C, take control of financial affairs. Bolick and Stiff. And that's Secretary Marshall. Aye. Secretary Wooten.
Aye.
Mr. Brown. Oh, sorry, Mr. Brown is recusing himself from Rocky Mount. Ms. Hoffman?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Hughes? Commissioner Johnson? Aye. And Treasurer Briner?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Carrie?
All right, Cindy, thank you so much. Rocky Mount, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Soon.
Yep. See you next time.
Good job.
Give them a minute.
Just transition time.
I had 2 weeks up there too, but I don't, I put on what I should have done, and just come to.
Or you can write them.
I'll get my check. Very handy, right? Because I'm a little.
That's not. Give it to Bill. All right, everyone isn't quite settled, but let's move ahead to the last item on your agenda, which is a discussion about the town of Rocky Mount. Sorry, Littleton. We won't go back through Rocky Mount. Discussion on the town of Littleton. This is a town that also has a significant financial crisis, but as I've said to some of you, this is more chronic and less of an urgent crisis situation. But as we get into the time of year where staff will bring forward to you the list of units that are behind on submitting the audit, and we will discuss the potential for sales tax withholding for these units, I wanted to go ahead and bring Littleton to your attention because I think it's important that you consider these units more than just once a year. And I've brought Littleton forward in particular because this town is further behind on the annual audit than any other local government unit in North Carolina. As to summarize some of Littleton's problems in the letter that was included in your packet, you know that we last received an audit from the town, I believe about 5 years ago. We, as you saw in the packet, sent a letter to the town requesting that they attend this meeting. I did not hear back from the town. We also subsequently sent the letter by certified mail. Still did not hear back from the town. There may be someone from the town of Littleton either here. If so, I'm seeing a nod. Excellent. Okay, happy to hear it. Town of Littleton, come on up, please. And there may be folks on the line as well. I'd like first to ask Kendra to summarize some of our division's history with the town of Littleton, just the financial picture, the being behind on the audits, just, if you can bring the commission up to speed, and then let's hear from the town.
Okay. So, to let you know what's been going on in the town of Littleton, they have a population of about 550 people. They maintain cemetery, a cemetery, and they provide police services, street lighting, water and sewer utility services. The last, as Denise said, audited financial statements that have been submitted to the local government commission came in January 2021. Those were for fiscal year 2020. So the town of Littleton operates under a mayor-council form of government. So in mayor-council form of governments, those usually have either a administrator on staff or the day-to-day oversight and coordination largely falls on elected officials. So that's the case in Littleton. And after the 2020 audited financial statements were submitted to the LGC, their auditor let them know that they would no longer be doing the audit for Littleton. So they began the process of finding a new auditor. They did so, but that successor firm told them that they would not be as able to be involved in the preparation of financial statements. They would not be helping the town come up with adjusting journal entries or doing any cleanup. So the town was needed to engage with a third-party accountant. They did so. That accountant came in and began looking at the books, found that there were several unrecorded journal entries that had been needed by when the auditor identified and did the previous audits. Those had not been recorded in the accounting system. They found that the accounting system did not talk to the utility billing system, so there was a lot of manual processes that had to happen in that case. And encountered some challenges in the town staff. The long-term finance officer left. A new finance officer was brought in, but did not have training in the accounting software. So there were a lot of challenges that were faced by that staff. They also, in addition to that, it was part-time billing clerk, part-time finance officer serving also as the town clerk, trying to do all the day-to-day in a town that provides a large number of services. A water and sewer billing system and utilities is difficult to maintain when you've got part-time staff there. So the accountant came in and finally was able in December of 2025 to produce a trial balance for 2021. That was provided to the new auditor, the successor auditor, and those financial statements were prepared and it was all given to the new auditor in March of 2025. Now, that auditor also does taxes and has an established practice of they don't touch audits during tax season. So those financial statements as prepared sat for a good bit. Finally, in February of 2026, this year, the auditor made us, the LGC, aware that they were substantially done with the audit and needed just a few more adjustments. Those adjustments have just recently been communicated appropriately to the people that could make those changes to the financial statements. So throughout this period of working, this unit has been on the unit assistance list. They've had a coach team member assigned to them. I have gone and presented to the board multiple times. And we've made it very clear that the ultimate responsibility for providing audited financial statements rests with the board. And so in recent weeks, the board has disengaged from that third-party accountant that wasn't able to produce a trial balance until 2025 and has engaged a new accountant who has a history of assisting units that are behind. And they have been in communication with the audit firm and I believe are on track to get that together. I'll allow them to speak more about what they have done. Also, what you all need to know operationally, they have this water and sewer system that they are required to have a licensed operator. That operator that they had on staff left, I believe, in 2021. And they contracted with Roanoke Rapids Sanitary District to provide that service in what was supposed to be a 6-month contract. To still now in 2026, Roanoke Rapids Sanitary District is providing that service. There has been some talks with the county about them possibly taking over that system for the town. To my knowledge, those talks are stalled right now. So I think those are the things that you need to know to address with the board to help us all come up with a concrete plan as to how we're going to keep things moving forward.
Thank you, Kendra. Your office has been a tremendous help. And we have a sequence and you have presented it item by item and we appreciate it. Littleton is a town of under 7.
Let me jump in. Thank you, Town of Littleton, for being here. Again, you did not respond. We did not know you were going to be here, but I'm glad you are. Please introduce yourselves so we know who you are.
Okay, I'm Heidi Hogan. I'm the mayor of Littleton.
Thank you.
I'm Ellen Eller. I'm the assistant clerk.
I'm Beverly Stroud, CPA that the town just contracted with.
Clyde Johnston. I'm the current finance officer, short term.
So much. And commission members, I know we've had a few other units that have contracted with Beverly that have been substantially behind and have gotten caught up. So no pressure. And but also before the town talks, I want to say something to the commission, and I think I said something very similar last month, which is we just heard from a local government that had been behind on the financial statements and got caught up. And what we heard from that town was it was hard to make sound financial decisions when the books were not caught up. So I keep beating this drum, but it's not getting an audit done for the sake of checking a box of getting an audit done. It's having updated financials so that you can soundly run your government. Keep the water running when people open up the tap, these types of things. So I'm very concerned about what auditors say is a going concern. I'm very concerned about your ability to continue functioning as a town. So with that said, please, we're glad you're here and we want to hear what.
We share your concern. We're a small rural town, population of under 700 people. We have our stores are filled with businesses. We have young families moving into town, but we're under 700 people. And we take our budget very seriously. It's a small budget and we don't have a lot of room for play in it. We carefully, and we listen to the other Rocky Mountain, each commissioner goes through their allocated funds, works it out, and when we meet as a board, each department addresses that portion of their budget. And as Kendra stated, in 2020, we began what to us seems like a downward spiral of communication. We have had a great deal of problems communicating, whether it's the auditor, the bookkeeper, the accountant. We have tried far too numerous to make copies, but I will leave this set of communications, emails, which show phone calls aren't even on here, which show our trying very hard to communicate with our bookkeeper and later with our accountant. It took a last minute phone call yesterday, sitting in the office, to finally get in contact with someone. And we were only able to contact our auditor by going through the other members of the firm. We received no calls back as much as we tried over the years. We found yesterday that there are just 2 items needed to complete this 2021 audit. One item was a copy was made incorrectly where it slid off and she couldn't read the last column. That's been since July. Now we finally got that information yesterday. The other item involved the listing of a particular item on the budget as it was listed as a repair, and the accountant, the final step after the financial statement, thought that maybe it should be listed as a capital improvement. It was a $7,000 bill on the repair of a sewer item. We have the bill listed as a repair. She wasn't sure, but we didn't know that. We are not accountants, we're not bookkeepers. We really love the town and we do our best. And we put a lot of hours into promoting business. It's wonderful to see young families come to town. Apparently, we have no ability to break that line to get through accountant, bookkeeper, CPA, you name it. We've tried everything. And we were in the cycle where we were dealing with firms that did both taxes and did the audits. And fortunately, Ms. Stroud was able, she agreed to work with us. We needed someone who didn't devote 6 months of the year to taxes, because we were at the end of a line, at the end of an audit line, and we kept being put off until the end. The individual we were dealing with came to the town hall in the fall of 2021 when the firm said they would take us on. Our accountant resigned. He'd been doing it for 6 years. We approached the firm the next month, August, from Oxford. They agreed to take us on. In that fall, representative from their firm came to the town hall, met with Ellen, pulled documents. We thought we were ready to go. The fall of 2021. And it has been a cycle of communication. There's more paper than this. These were the significant ones. We know we have to do something. We have, I think in the position we were in, we kept thinking, well, we don't want to annoy the auditor. They'll get it to us in time. Or we would send an email, we wouldn't get a response. Or we'd get a response saying, we will return your call. That never happened. And there's documentation in here. We're not trying to blame other people. We're trying to show you that in the cycle of people who are doing tax returns and audits, we kind of been caught in the middle. Okay, we do care. We budget very, very carefully, very carefully. Each commissioner takes their field and goes through it, and we see where we can make cuts, where we can do things differently. There's a sheet here that says Town of Littleton moving forward. And moving forward is part of our hiring Ms. Stroud and for her agreeing to take us on. We are very grateful. We've also made other adjustments in the setup of our system that we hope will tighten up the financial system in town. If you'll notice, we have making that finance position a full-time position. That was something. We provided an office for that individual. The previous one had one. We've added a little bit to that finance officer duties in that we want monthly updates on our specific budget, our specific column within the town budget, if you're streets, if you're water sewer, whatever it is that you are. We've asked for monthly reports. We have put out our finance officer resigned. We put an advertisement out for her replacement. We have received 7, 2 of which are absolutely top-notch. We are thrilled to death that they were willing to come. They highly qualified. Applications close on Monday, and we plan on interviewing candidates for that new full-time finance position the following week. We will review all 7. As I said, there are 2 that are really up at the top of the list. One of the things we plan on doing is we hope continuing our ongoing relationship with the NC Treasurer's Office. They've been extraordinarily helpful. I think they have faced some of the problems that we have in trying to communicate with I'm using the wrong term, with the auditors and bookkeepers. They're not talking to each other, and they're certainly not talking to us, and don't want to talk to anybody else either. We do work hard. We follow our budget. We don't overspend. We don't have it to overspend. Okay, when you have under 700 people in your growing town, yes, you have money coming in, but you also have additional expenditures. We were informed that with these 2 items, in the next 2 weeks, tax season is over, and we hope that the 2021 budget audit will be complete. We are as horrified with making that statement as you are of hearing it. We have lived it. And our hope is with the changes we've made, tightening up, with the fact that Ms. Stroud is on board, helping us, not involved in tax season, and she has agreed to give us some names of companies we might contact who do municipal auditing, who do not do taxes. we are open to questions. And I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Just a couple quick questions. Why did you not respond to our letter?
I'm sorry.
Why did you not respond to our letter?
I apologize. I thought that was just be there. And we took it as a be there. I'm sorry. It said the letter to come.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. It said be there and
And secondarily, I believe we're withholding sales tax from Littleton.
Hmm?
We're withholding sales tax from Littleton.
yes.
I don't believe you guys showed up for that hearing either.
I don't know anything.
I'm
So we-
not aware of that.
There was someone on the phone.
But that might have been the first year.
Last
was trying to
September,
check
we
the
held a
minutes to
hearing
find out.
for 5 hours about all the municipalities where we're going to withhold sales tax. I don't recall, and perhaps I'm mistaken, that Littleton bothered to show up.
I'm sorry. I don't.
Can I speak to
Yeah.
that? I'm not sure, but I do think there was one time that the finance officer tried to get on and was not ever able to actually speak or respond. But I think that she was on a Zoom meeting. That may be what you're referring to.
There was one where she was on and she was able to speak, but I believe that was the first one. And I know that there were some issues about whether or not the town was going to appeal. And there was a last minute appeal letter sent in.
And I think we were grateful for the help that Kendra's department was giving us. And that was our lifeline. That was our means of communication. And I apologize. We used help, our finance officer. I don't want to use the term mentor, but she did have someone assigned that she could call. That our finance officer worked with. I often wonder how we could have handled the audit situation better than we did. I don't know. We tried. We tried to contact the auditors and the bookkeepers in ways that would not be disruptive. We had a 6-month period where they didn't want to take any calls. But I have the moving forward plan. We have an email. We emailed the auditor, and her response yesterday was, and with our bookkeepers, that if those 2 items were satisfied, that particular audit would be complete, and they felt comfortable that Beverly, I'll let you speak on that, moving forward.
So the one item that could possibly hold this up is the invoice for the repair / capital outlay. The CPA's already written the financial statements and we have a draft. The auditor has not blessed them, and one item would be this invoice. If we have to go back, he'd have to rework the financial statements and move that to capital outlay, do a new depreciation schedule. He would have to rework the financial statements. So I think the town this morning has sent an email and asked her, can we leave this as is as repair and maintenance? $7,000. Her answer to me and the former other CPA was it was not trivial. So she was not fond of not making a capital outlay. I think the town said they emailed this morning and asked her, can we leave it repair and maintenance? Then we won't have to rework financials. She could go ahead and issue her opinion, which will make it a lot faster. So right now, I guess we're laying in wait for her to make the decision on whether she's going to move this to capital outlay or not.
Yes, and that piece of equipment, we actually had the piece broke, and so we had to replace it, and it was a $7,500 replacement.
And that's the position we're in.
The other item she had been waiting on was the GASB 34 conversion worksheet, which the former CPA still does on ledger paper. And it was turned sideways, and I believe, and it's all handwritten.
Sure.
And so I think when he scanned it, maybe some of the columns shifted off the page. She didn't have it. But he had sent that like last spring, summer. And so it just got communicated to him that she didn't get it all.
Right. In that regard, and we had brought something, but you did an excellent job of bringing them up to date. But our accountant that was hired to give it to the auditor, actually on April 1st, a year ago today, had sent everything and had no clue until Beverly got involved that there was anything else that he was responsible for getting to them. So last minute, 59th second, yesterday at 3:50, I believe it was, the mayor had been there all afternoon because we were trying to get some things to show you. And she picked up the phone, called the bookkeeper and our accountant, and he had no clue. There was supposed to I believe one of the things that we had documented was on February 10th of this year, you had actually sent and wanted something from our auditor, and she was going to turn around and send it to everybody, and nobody ever got anything. So our mayor took it upon herself and was working hard to try to make communication happen with the auditor. Yesterday, with the bookkeeper not knowing whatsoever what it was that was not turned in, she turned around and spoke to the audit firm and was put through. And within 10 minutes, we had an email that we could then send to our accountant, who then turned around, and that was what had already been sent. It was just strictly the information she said was sideways, but the other was this $7,000 bill that we had made it a repair, and the auditor was making it a capital improvement.
May I jump in?
Yes.
I hear you that you have the stack of communications that
Yes.
you have made, and you have continued to try to reach out. But ultimately, we're talking about 5 years. And it's your responsibility as the mayor and as for your governing board to find a way forward rather than to continue to rely on outside folks you have contracted on the outside that are not getting the job done. We're not even talking about 2 years late or 3 years late. So I hear you with that she wants to make this change and maybe it's not material, but if this were a 6-month delay, I think that would be more understandable. Ultimately, if you're going to run a town, you have to run the town. I'm just so concerned that you cannot run it.
There have been some changes on the board, and I think that it was a focus of new mayor and new board when this came on to tackle this. And I have to say, we sort of had the impression, well, if we bother them, they're not going to finish it. We just, you call someone and they're busy doing taxes. You call someone, they don't return. You can do so much, and then they're just going to move you back to the bottom of the line. Back in July, we were told that just a bit of information was needed. We were all set. The information was turned over, and what happened was when the CPA of the bookkeeping firm had to do the financial statement, we were told they used our statement to go through a new program they had, and it got all jammed up. So they weren't going to be able to do anything with it, this from November until May, because they were doing taxes. Now, we're a small town. I guess we could have gone on a hunt for firms that didn't do taxes, that just do audits. I would say, on my part, it was ignorance that I thought, well, they're all doing tax. That was a bad assumption. But I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. It makes no sense. It was.
So
Mr. Otter.
I'm the state auditor. Nice to meet you. Glad that you're here. I got a couple of questions. Is that all right? One is, who was your accountant? Who was your auditor?
It was Tara Robertson with Winston Creech and a big long name, but they have since sold, and the new email is now referring to Jones.
Where are they located?
Oxford.
Oxford?
Yes, quite near us, actually.
Where is that miles from Littleton?
An hour or less.
Not even. Yeah.
Did anybody get in the car and drive to the firm and go sit in the lobby and say, hey, we need some help?
Well,
And that seems to me to be, I mean, I need to track somebody down and I know where they are. I'm gonna get in my car and drive and sit in the lobby and say, we got a real problem here. We're getting ready. We're not even getting a percentage of the tax revenue that helps pay our bills. We got to get this fixed. I mean, I would also, clearly y'all didn't do that. I would suggest that in the future, but also call your elected state auditor, call your elected treasurer, or call your elected state representative or your elected state senator, or call the nice people over here at the LGC before you get 5 years behind and say, hey, can you give us some help? Because at the very least, we'd ask the fantastic people at the League of Municipalities to come give you a hand because they've got some resources that can come in and help. Madam Secretary of State would have reached out to you and returned your call and helped in a New York minute. Because just because we're the state auditor and we got certain jobs, that doesn't mean we won't help you. We're elected officials and we're glad to help.
We did meet with Kendra's up. We did. We met and we had, our finance officer spoke with people in the office and we were trying to do the right thing. But no, they were very helpful. They came to town, met with the entire board, worked with us, but they wouldn't get a return call when they called.
If there were times that we did not get return calls, but also, Mayor, we had conversations about what have other units done that have been in that situation to get some progress. And I could not make that decision for the town of Littleton.
Right.
The town of Littleton had to make the decision to take those steps in which to get some progress. And yes, there was difficulty in our staff getting responses from those professionals that you all contracted with.
Mm-hmm.
But again, also ultimately, it's up to the board to escalate things. I think when Commissioner Johnson and I spoke just in the last week, I made suggestions of call the managing partner of the firm. Have a conversation with someone at the firm saying that you want to disengage with that auditor and engage another auditor. Make some change in your third-party accountant when they are taking too long and are not responsive and not responding to the engagement that you are paying them to do. Those are things that are up to the board to do.
I have to say, we're far too late in doing that, but with our bookkeeping, we call the only individual in the firm, in the list, who could do the financial report. And we got the excuse, well, we put yours through, it's a test in our new system and it didn't work. And I said, it's unacceptable. Then don't use the system. He apparently was the only one in the bookkeeping firm that could do the financial report. His answer to me was, I'm busy doing taxes. This is way up in the firm, one of the owners, not Tara's firm, but the other one, the bookkeeper. And he said, I said, we've got to do this. How are we going to get this done? He said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, I will work on that and not leave the office until this is done this weekend. That was a ridiculous response. You're not going to write a 62-page financial report on them. I physically, and that was with the bookkeeping level. We tried, I agree. You have changes in board, you have changes in finance officers. Along the way, it was, all right, we'll see if this works. We'll try what this works. We should have gone with the big guns sooner. I want all of you to know, though, that in the interim, we want these audits finished. We want the ability to show that we are doing things right. We we had good contact with one of our early auditors years ago when I was on the board. Years ago, he would give us advice and we would follow it and it would make things better. We want the audit to be good. We're small. We work hard. We want to show you guys they're good, but we have to get it done. I guess we were hesitant maybe to exercise so much power that it would delay us even further. I have no other explanation. I don't.
One question, that's 2021. What about the years since then? Are your internal records current and up to date? Are the banks reconciled? Are you ready to be audited for those are the 4 years total?
Yes, and in fact, we said, well, we asked the question, could they start on the following audit? You know, and we were told, no, they can't until this one is complete.
I think that the other CPA has already looked at 2022 and made some year-end adjustments. I went in when I've only been there once because I just contracted him a couple weeks ago, and I ran some balance sheets and looked at things. It doesn't look, and the minute I say this, it doesn't look terrible. I mean, I usually go in and see debits on the credit side, credits on the debit side. You know, it did not look terrible. It's just the year-end adjustments can't be made. And until you get that first year, because these are balance sheet accounts, you can't roll the next years all the way forward, not everything. So I don't think it'll be, I think the problem is getting this one unstuck. And once we do that, we can start turning them out. If we can get our auditor on board every few months. I really believe that.
I do want to say that for the commission members to be aware, there is a $15 million appropriation from the General Assembly to the town for water and sewer projects, another $8 million in grants. So there's a lot of money that should be running through the books and had to be managed at the town of Littleton right now.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I want to bring up your water sewer. I know we have a few members that may need to go. We can't go on indefinitely, but it doesn't seem like you should be running a water and sewer system. And I'd like to know the status of your talks with the county for potentially transitioning your system over to the county. Certainly, we're concerned about these state grant funds as well. And one thing that I have offered to Halifax County is that our staff can attempt to help from a legislative side if you need help getting those appropriations redirected from the town of Littleton over to the county. You shouldn't be running a water and sewer system, I don't think.
There's just to say, we've even had public meetings where our engineer, public works representative from the county, our COG lawyer have come, and they have shown the budget sheet of exactly how that money was appropriated, where it stands along the way. So as far as our grants, the sheets we have on that, they're well done. And we presented that to people that are interested. In response to your question about the water, it's kind of an interesting thing, is that we are at the end of the water line. Okay. And so it's a mutual benefit for Halifax County to take our water, because then they can continue the loop. So we are all hoping for that. Takeover implies that we bundle the job. That's not the case. It's a case where we have to work our finances. We have to find a plant operator fully qualified. And our water is good, but our water could be better because we're at the end of the line from Halifax. We currently buy our water from Halifax. Once this merger occurs, the ultimate plan is to loop it, which keeps the water flowing, which is good. Most of the grant money we received was for the sewer. We have a very good contractor, has been working through this bad weather. We're only a couple weeks behind, which with the ice and snow was pretty good.
So I'm sorry, please continue.
Go ahead.
So do I understand that you do intend to merge your system in with the county system? I understand that there's an
The
existing
lawyers,
MOU.
our lawyer and the county lawyer are trying to work out, what do we call it, the mutual,
MOU.
what is it?
MOU.
Yeah,
Memorandum of
mutual agreement. And both lawyers have had that.
I
And they
think,
say they working it out, both the county lawyer and our lawyer.
I think the staff has a real concern over the fact that without trued up financial statements and audited financial statements, and with the appropriation of tens of millions of dollars, there's very little confidence that that money is being directed appropriately. I think that's the overall concern. I mean, and that is what this body has been formed in order to hold municipalities accountable on behalf of the legislature, because when they appropriate dollars, they are expecting the local municipalities and local political leadership to be able to manage this properly. And when that doesn't happen, or when there's no direct evidence that those funds are being ushered with transparency and accountability, it's up to this body to take action. So, I mean, that's where we're at. So, I mean, I think, I hate to be mean, bad auditor, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, we got to get on with this show, and we've got to get these audits done. We've got to get them done now. And if we got to go drive, an hour away and sit down in an accountant's office and sit there all day for 2 weeks, then that's what we need to do. But we need to get this done, because the people of Littleton are counting on you and your staff to marshal these resources correctly and and the legislature's counting on you to give a return on investment, so that these young families moving to Littleton have a great place to live and raise a family.
I didn't think to bring the documentation we have, the actual breakdown for the grant funds. And as I said, it's been a combined effort. Would you like those sent?
Mayor, without an audit, I don't know that those are correct. I don't know that those statements, those spreadsheets that have been provided to you by the engineer are accurate without the audit. So I don't know that that's going to provide me the information that I need.
If I can jump in, please. Commission members, what's your desire?
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I am one of those folks that are going to have to step away from the meeting, and I apologize for that. And I'm sorry the cameras are gone. Cameras like bright shiny objects, and bright shiny object is over, but it really isn't. I mean, what we're talking about now, it's $22 million appropriation and for a town, and you're very gracious, and this is not directed at you, but it's about the topic. We have multiple cities that are 4, 5, and 6 years behind our audit. So we just don't know what's out there in many cases, because you don't even know. And so you can't submit that so that we can have an idea, but that's all across the state. And as I said, we had a big shiny object in here earlier, but I would like for us to think through, what do we do for our units that are 3, 4, and 5 years? Because while on one hand we have the responsibility, oversight responsibility, and I'm a former city council member, so I get it. You come in and we beat you up, and you're 4, 5, 6 years behind, and then we go away for a little while, then we come back and beat you. It is your fiduciary responsibility to get them. And I don't want to run, and no one up here wants to run a city or a county or a unit. So I think this could be a catalyst for us to have a broader discussion on, as a LGC, what do we do in a more proactive mode so that we're not having these type of conversations, having conversations about how to fix it in a more effective manner. And I guess that's a forward thing. We certainly can't do it now. If we did,
We really
won't be
thought
here.
that withholding the revenue sharing would be that thing that pushed them onto it. But, you haven't demonstrated, and I love you people, you haven't demonstrated a sense of urgency about
I have to agree, we should have pushed harder. We were hesitant that what we had would stop. And then where were we? We would get, well, they'll get it. We got it. We'll get it to her. We'll do it. And that never happened. I am concerned about the grant funds because those books come through the state, they go through the COG. I mean, that whole cycle.
Still belongs to the town.
Correct, but that's a whole I mean, that batch of money, I'm sorry that, I know, but that batch of money is managed through a whole separate section. I know at one point it merges with our overall audit, but okay.
May I ask a question? So I would just like to know what you want us to do at this point. I think I heard you that we need to go and sit at that audit firm until we get it. But I mean, just tell us, because I think the vast majority of Littleton citizens, and I know as an employee, we do want it to be done. But
Yes.
you all just tell us what to do and we will work as hard as we can getting it implemented here immediately. I'm not saying next month and we're no different than we are right now. We just want to know what you want us to do.
You want it?
Well, thank you for that, because that's exactly where we need to be. Right? What has happened has happened.
And we can't go
We don't like
Right.
it. You are at the latest town in the entire state, so we understand the challenges of local government auditing and finance. You're not the only ones to have those, but you are the only ones to meet this late. So what is a reasonable deadline by which we get the 2021 audited financial statements until we as the LGC take over and go do them ourselves? What is that, or what is reasonable? Is that
2
a
weeks?
demand?
I think if we can't get it by April 30th, because at this point, she's not gonna do anything for us till April 15th. So we either have to fire her now or give her until then and take her at her word that she has told me, she told them, she work on it night and day to get this done after April 15th. So I think if we give her to April 30th and we don't have it, I think the only other path forward we have is to let her go. And at that point, we'd have to pay her out for any work she's done so that the LGC will release them from the contract. And then we'd have to contract with another auditor and start over at 21 again on the audit process. We already have the financial statements written, so we'd have to just bring in somebody to do the testing and issue the opinion. But I think that's the only two paths we have forward, is to give her maybe until April 30th or let her go
So
and move forward.
my view, and obviously whatever you all think, we'll carry the day collectively, is that we should have audited financial statements by our May meeting for 2021 from the town of Littleton. And absent that, we're going to be out of patience.
I agree.
Is that fair?
Mr. Harder, we have a draft of a resolution given notice, which I think we should adopt with the change in number 1. Unless this is different from what you sent us, Denise.
Sure. So you have a draft notice and resolution of warning, which is the most severe type of warning that can be given to a town before the LGC takes over.
And that's the one, and I would just modify subsection number 1 on the therefore section to move April 30th to May 15th. Or the date of because that says that the secretary should get it no later than close of business on April 30th, but it sounds like we're willing to move that to our May meeting.
I would say this, Madam Mayor, merging or giving your water and sewer system over is not necessarily an indication of failure. Might be an indication of a sound business decision.
Yes.
I would just keep that.
Yeah,
I would just keep that in mind, that I don't think anybody's looking in and saying that if you make a sound business decision that you shouldn't be in the water and sewer business because you're a municipality of fewer than 700 people, that your inability to manage that particular operation is somehow a failure. It might be a success in the sense that if you make a sound business decision to not be in that business, that it's not a failure, it's actually the opposite, it is a success on behalf of the people. So I wouldn't beat myself up, is what I'm trying to say, okay?
And I would just like to say to the gentleman's point that was here earlier, and this is not Littleton, but I have several of these units. Matter of fact, when we get this one out, they'll be tied with maybe 1 or 2 of my other units. So we're like in this constant race to see who's the last. But I do think at some point there needs to be some roundtable discussion about what's going on in the local government units. It feels like it's imploding. When I see the talent that's there or lack of talent, the league has their program where they're catching people up, but what happens when they are out of their ARPA money and people like us pull out? We're gonna be right here with 5 other towns or 10 other towns sitting right in the same positions. I don't know what the answer is, but I think some type of, with all the players in the game, other CPAs, other auditors need to come together.
Well, there was a proposal in the North Carolina House that was removed, and that was to either work through the LGC or through our office at the state auditor's office to fill that gap.
Right.
So the legislature, the General Assembly that is on the radar in the sense, and I've had productive discussion, on the Treasurer has as well, with members of the General Assembly. I don't know if Secretary of State, Madam Secretary of State, if they called you in on that, but I certainly would call you in on that as well, with respect to sort of trying to fill that, because you play a vital role in that arena. And the Secretary of Revenue does too, as well.
Right, because
So
I
that
also
is-
work with Town of Speed, that was, you all discussed earlier. And, in a population of 60 people, they did not have a town attorney, so they had to go out and secure a town attorney. They had to hire an auditor to catch up their audits, and then they were forced, well, I say forced, but they had to hire me to help, and they can't afford those 3 professional services on a town of 60 people.
Well, they were keeping their books on a personal computer in somebody's house.
So yeah, I don't know. It's just sometimes I've had as many as 7 referrals in 7 days for people that need services, and it's a lot.
Unfortunately, I have your cell number.
I do. I know Beth Ray very well.
My team, I know.
Yeah, we run in the same circles, and that's unfortunate. I mean, I like you well enough, but it's rather unfortunate. So, yeah.
It sounds like you are coalescing around the notice of warning. I do
Yes,
want to point out one more thing that one of my staff was reminding me, which is, you'll remember a while back, we talked about Siler City being behind on their audits, and they're attempting to merge the water system with Sanford. And they're not able to complete the merger because the audits are not caught up. Sanford feels like, well, Sanford feels, but Sanford has gone above and beyond, and it's being a bit punished at this point for trying to do the right thing and regionalize. And I would imagine we could end up in a similar situation here. So I understand that you have coalesced around doing the notice of warning. Cindy, I think you have the draft up. Which of the 2 May 30ths are being changed to the May 5th? Or is it both?
It's the April 30th.
Sorry, April
number
30th,
one.
the first
We're
one.
submitting on it, and should it come in on the day before the other?
Close of business on May 4th.
May 4th.
Yes.
All right. And what's the appetite for the other part about?
It's asking for.
Sure, and then the other part of this one talks about requiring
But I mean,
Talks about requiring the town to employ a full-time finance officer by April 30th, or provide evidence to the secretary that the town has made significant progress in either hiring the finance officer or making alternative arrangements to ensure that the finance officer duties are being timely fulfilled. Are you interested in leaving that in?
Okay, all right, so just the change of date is all.
So looking for a motion to adopt this notice of warning as amended with permission for staff to make, first and a second. Cindy, can you call
Who's first?
Mr.
Hughes and Secretary Wooten second. All right, so Littleton with that one modification, 21 audit will come in.
And we'll send this to you
by May 4th.
Thank you.
All right, Hughes, Wooten, Secretary Marshall. Aye. Alder Bullock.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
He's muted, but
I think I saw his
I
mouth.
think that was an aye. Want to just give us a thumbs up or thumbs down?
We'll come back. Ms. Hoffman. Thank you. Ms. Hoffman?
I'm an aye. Aye.
And Commissioner Johnson? Aye. Mr. Stiff is absent. Treasurer Briner?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much. Unless there is any other business,
Are you gonna finish in Henderson?
looking for, I was just gonna move on. Yeah, we'll mention those next time, unless there's any other business. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Treasurer.